Hey everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to the CAF Plus channel. We've got I got some good programming here for a Saturday afternoon. We'll have Kevin Nowlan on. We'll be talking a little bit about Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor, and we'll be joined by Mark Waid in a little bit. He'll be coming in, I think, about 15 minutes, and then we've got an art sale. First time dropping some of the artwork from that three-issue series that took a little while to get it all complete and get it out there, but it's wonderful to see the artwork. We got 32 pieces of artwork to show you today, so I think you're really going to enjoy getting to look at that and talk with two of the creators of that book. And I would remind everybody, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, click that thumbs up, and all the things that go along with being able to follow the things that we do here on the channel, because we do regular programming that covers all the bases, from talking to creators to art sales to doing collector interviews, all that fun stuff. So without further ado, let me bring in Mr. Kevin Nowlan. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I couldn't be better here on a Saturday
Good.
afternoon. It's uh
Excellent.
it's always a pleasure to get to talk with a comic professional with more than at least 40 years in the business right now, Kevin. Is it have we
Yeah.
reached that?
Oh yeah. Sadly, a little more than 40 years. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You're the guy with the most experience on the floor a lot of times. You've been doing a lot of shows of late too. I know that you were in San Jose, and I think were you at Terrificon as well?
Yes. Yeah. Two in a row. 2 weekends in a row. So that was a bit much.
Yeah, but keeps you busy. What's when you go to a show like that, do you bring a lot of published work with you, or do you do some like pre sketches and things like that for the fans?
Uh, Not too. No, I've decided to hang on to most of my published stuff. Um, so I did, I think, one pre-show commission for this for San Jose.
Hmm.
Um, Usually, what I have are just lately a few preliminaries, smaller pieces, and it's it's an education because they go really fast. So I realize I should be showing up with more of those, but it's always surprising um, how how people will collect the roughest sketch, the smallest little thumbnail. Um, if it has a little bit of a character they like, they'll snatch it up.
Well, that's never a bad thing. I mean, everybody who do you sign a lot of books, I imagine, too, when you're at shows?
Yeah, yeah. Still signing a lot of books. Um, yeah, that's probably the majority of my time is just spent signing books. Again, more than 40 years of, even someone as slow as me, after 40 years, there's going to be a lot of material out there. So um,
That is
there's a
true. I went
lot.
over to comics.org before the show started just to get a idea, a reminder of all the books and things that you've worked on, and yeah, you've got a lot of material out there that people could be signing. Um, Rich Danny's, who's in the chat, mentions that collectors like to see process on the pieces. Do you tend to leave a lot of pencil lines on your convention sketch style pieces, or do you like to erase all that and just let the inks speak for themselves?
The former. I like to leave the pencils on there. Yeah, I think only one time a young guy asked me to erase it a little more, but um, I feel like that's part of the artists. Other artists definitely want to see the work. Um,
Hmm.
we often sit next to Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and a lot of what he sells these days at conventions is the prelims, the in between drawings that he uses, and I love seeing his I love seeing his work because he'll do the thing where you use different colored pencils as you're refining the layout, and you can actually see the thing evolve. Um, when it's done, of course, you've seen his originals; they're
Hmm. Oh yeah.
perfect. You can't imagine there was ever any any question about how it was going. It's like but it is a process, um, and yeah, other artists I think appreciate that. Sometimes fans just want a pristine, perfectly clean black and white image that looks like it came right out of the Xerox machine or the
Yeah. Well, a
printer.
lot of people expect to see the images that they see printed in the comic books too, right? They just that's what they're used to seeing. They're not used to seeing uh, the process or stuff behind it. And I get that. There's a few
Right.
collectors I know that would prefer to even buy their published artwork where it's perfect. And if it's not a clean white page and with no little soda pop stains on it or something like that, they won't buy it. Or
Right.
I've a few friends, a few of these guys who will return the artwork when they find out there's a little blemish on them. And that's
Uh,
not typical of all collectors, but but it is out there, and hey, to
right.
each their own at the end of the day.
Right. Right. I think the success of the artist editions, those Scott Doombier books,
Mm,
where you're seeing scans of originals, um, emphasizes the point that we want to see something of the work involved. If there's a marginal note or even a whiteout or something like that, um, I don't know. That's just more interesting. They've done at least one artist whose work was so pristine that the artist edition was almost pointless because it comes from his hands looking so perfect and no signs of struggle. It sort of takes the fun out of it, from my point of view, anyway.
right. Well, I was looking at I've got a couple portfolios and put all the artwork in that you shipped me last week. And I saw in a lot of cases, I could still see some of the blue line pencil going into
Right.
the margins that Bryan would have left there that you didn't erase, and
Hmm.
I think that's cool. I love seeing that. It's not going to show up in the printed piece, but yeah, I mean it just kind of you get to see a little bit more of what Bryan was thinking, and then the way you interpreted it, what you chose to ink, what you didn't, how you chose to cut
Right.
off a panel border or whatnot, and yeah, it's all part of the fun, I think.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So I'm looking at the chat. One of the coolest con experiences is the witness and artist drawing at the table, says Fred Chamberlain. And Fred should know, right? Fred gets
Oh.
to hang out with
Yeah.
uh, Jose quite a bit, right?
Yes. Exactly.
So, like I mentioned to everybody, we're going to be, looking at artwork from the last days of Lex Luthor, and Mark Waid told us he'd probably be joining us in about like 15 minutes after the hour. So, anybody that has any questions for Kevin, I'll be happy to throw them up on the screen while we wait for Mark to join us. But, I know that we talked a bit about this book too, and it was something that it was a lot of work for you. It was funny when I received the pages. I thought we had talked about, like the pages being 11 by 17, but they're not. They're like 13 and a half by 18. So, and the DPSs are 18 by 28 or 27, something like that. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, they are, and all in one piece of paper, not taped together like they used to do in the old days. One solid double page spread. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you ended up shipping everything in two packages. So
Yeah.
with the oversized, the DPSs in one and everything else in another. Hey, and Malcolm Bourne joining us from across the pond. Malcolm,
Yeah,
nice to see you.
which is why he's saying good morning, because it is morning where Malcolm is. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're familiar with Malcolm, as many collectors
Very
are.
much so. Yeah, we love Malcolm and Fred. Yeah.
Well, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, I really enjoy it. But one of the things I was going to ask you about, and you probably don't know the answer. Like some of the pages, it's like half of the book is like pure white paper, and the other one has kind of
Oh,
I wouldn't say it's got a bit of a tone to it. And I know it's all brand new paper, but it's just interesting that Bryan chose to draw on two different types of Bristol. It looks like, or at least in terms of the color of the board. I don't know if you
right.
noticed that or not. It wasn't until I started separating it that I saw that that there was a difference in sections. Like other 12 pages would be in the one paper and the other one would be, it's not that different, but it's noticeable.
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of discussion about the paper stock. Um, there's often a difference in the requirements for penciling and inking. I like
Mm,
penciling stuff on really smooth Bristol, but boy, that's a nightmare if you're trying to ink it, because as soon as you use an eraser on an ink page, half the ink comes up if it's too smooth. Um, so as an inker, you want a little bit of tooth, a little bit of it doesn't have to be rough textured, but not glass smooth like
mhm.
some Bristol. So yeah, we talked about, and Bryan was very accommodating, trying to, you know, to work with me on what paper stock worked best. And he tried the paper with more tooth, and it just wasn't working for him. So he went back to an earlier stock. So yeah, there's a there's a bit of a mixture there in the Bristol that we used, but
Interesting.
it'll
But
work.
even for him as a penciler, he prefers the Bristol, and whether it's smooth or with a tooth, right? That's
Right,
interesting.
right,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hey, John Beatty's here. He's inked a few pieces of art in his time as well.
exactly, exactly. Mm.
Nice to have you here, John. But but yeah, well, I thought that was neat, and it was fun just kind of flipping through because you did ship everything, nicely ordered too. So it was almost like getting to reread the whole book while I was putting everything in the portfolios yesterday.
And we can talk about that later with Mark, but that was one of the interesting things about working on this. I did have a copy of the script, so I read ahead a bit,
Hmm.
but and I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't read the book. There's a hell of a surprise at the end of this series that I didn't see coming. I hadn't read quite that far ahead, and as I'm inking the pages, I had like an emotional reaction to what I was looking at. If you read the book, it's the next to the last page. It's
Hmm.
really stunning, with this wonderful surprise that Mark wrote. Um, well, I'll stop talking about it because I don't want to give it away for anybody who hasn't read it. I don't want it to be spoiled. But I was delighted because it's so rare. I'm not even sure if it's ever happened where I was working on something, even if it's like this, I'm just the inker, and the story hit me that hard. It's such a great story that he wrote, and Bryan's pencils on that page are equally stunning. It's really understated storytelling, but boy, it hits you hard when you see what's happening in
It
that
caught you by
moment.
surprise.
Yeah.
And I see Mark Waid actually got in the green room, but his camera is not on yet. So once I see his camera up and running, and oh, I see it now, so I can bring him in. And well, I actually did grab some screenshots from the book, and I do have that page in here. I'd like to think most people have read it, but maybe not. Here, let me bring Mark in and give you guys top billing. How you doing, Mark?
Good. I came in the very tail end of what Kevin was saying, and it sucks that I wasn't here to talk to hear him glow up about the book beforehand. So
Well, now Kevin has to restate everything all over again. But no, I would agree with Kevin. We were just talking about how the story ends, and he didn't want to spoil it. I do have a like I said, a screen grab of that particular page. But now that we have you here, I guess let's talk a bit about the overall story and how long was this thing gestating before it finally got to the point where DC was willing to commit to allowing you to do it?
it took about 3 or 4 years before they committed to doing it.
Hmm.
The backstory, again, trying to be kind and political or apolitical. Um, a young assistant editor contacted me I guess about 9 years ago now, and said, we're doing this Black Label thing. We'd love for you to be a part of it. We really want you must have a Superman story somewhere in your back pocket. And I said, honestly, I don't, because I didn't think I was ever going to be able to write Superman, because at that time I was like so many people, sort of blackballed at DC by the current publisher. And I said, I don't have a story, but thank you for and even it doesn't matter. It would never see print. And I came home and I was just thinking, and son of a bitch, if I didn't come up with the idea. just the idea of Luthor, the world's most hated man, coming to Superman for help, and Superman knowing that he has no choice because he's Superman. So I wrote up like a one-page treatment. They loved it, all happy. The editors liked it a lot. Um, they asked for a more formal proposal. I wrote up 2 pages or something like that. Loved it, aces, no notes. Went up the chain. No. Categorical, absolutely no. We will not publish this. Little time goes by. I'm talking to Bryan Hitch about something else altogether. I mentioned it to Bryan. Bryan's like, I'd like to read that. Send it over to Bryan. Bryan's like, I really want to draw this. Let's pitch it again. So we pitched it again, the two of us, not interested. So there was then, it just kind of sat in limbo. And then there was a regime change. And as happens with regime changes, I got a bunch of calls that day from DC going, come back home, come back home. And, you must have that Superman thing handy. I said, yeah. So we got approved like that week. And we were off to the races. And I knew Bryan, depending upon what project he's working on, is either very fast or slow, depending upon, because he's always got a bunch of other irons in the fire. So I knew it, I knew I had a little bit of time here. But I wrote that first issue, wrote the second issue, I don't think I'd finished, I'm not sure I finished I had finished the third issue by that time. And they put it on the schedule, which took us all by surprise, because the second issue I don't think was finished yet. Was it, Kevin?
If I remember, I barely started on the inks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. They knew it was going to take a long time. But Bryan's fast at penciling. I'm notoriously very, very slow. And suddenly
I prefer meticulous.
Well,
right, and these aren't 22-page stories either. Each book was around 50 pages. So
yeah, it was originally they were budgeted for 46, and then Bryan just kept pushing it to 48, and that's fine. DC would get every issue in and roll their eyes and go, "It's not budgeted for that," but then they would go, "Okay, well, we're not going to ask you to cut anything." So, for whatever budgetary reason, DC just threw the first one on the schedule, even though we knew 2 and 3 would not be following up the month after that and the month after that. So I wish that had not happened, because I think that helped the book get buried a little bit. I don't think that the monthlies, or the monthlies, I don't think the individual issues were talked about as much. I'm hoping that over the years, as people get their hands on the collected edition over and over again, as we go to a trade paperback at some point, I'm hoping that people start to read this thing again and really understand what we were trying to do. I'm hoping.
Well, I've read through it 3 times. I mean, I
Nice.
kind of kept finding something new in it each time I read it. So I do think it's a wonderful work. And irrespective of what happened, the snafus with the publishing schedule, I think it's fantastic. And and clearly a labor of love, I think, on all 3 of your parts, because I know, Kevin, you labored over the inks, and you wanted to do your best work. I mean, we talked about that on the phone a week or so ago, but clearly, there's a level of expectation that people have from seeing your work, your inking, and then to see these pages, because Bryan works oversized, that just seeing everything in such detail, and the DPSs that are monstrous. It's just amazing and beautiful, and anybody who hasn't had the chance to read the book yet is missing out, because it's a feast for the eyes.
Thank you. Kevin, you really knocked it out of the park. You really did. I said over and over again, if this book had been drawn by Joe New Guy, nobody would care. It's the alchemy. I mean, it would still be the same story, but it's the alchemy of the people working on it together. It's a collaborative medium, and if it succeeds, you all got to take credit, and if it fails because there's a piece in that equation that shouldn't be there. So you guys knocked it out of the park. I have questions about Kevin's method, if I may.
Please.
All right. So Kevin, as pages come in, what is it? Do you literally start in the upper left-hand corner and move down, or how do you go about inking these pages?
That's a good question, and I when people ask me that, I kind of get embarrassed because I do it all wrong, which is I start with the easy stuff, which means you end up finishing the day or finishing that page with the hardest things. So yeah,
Yeah.
if there's a large Superman figure, I'm getting that first. If there's detailed backgrounds, and with Bryan, there's always detailed backgrounds, then that's the final step. And in hindsight, I know what I should have done to sped this thing up. I should have gone old school and worked with a background guy, because
Oh,
the main part that slowed me down were these. Another artist described Bryan as the widescreen penciler, because
right.
every opportunity to show a cityscape with infinite details of every building, every
Yeah.
little doodad everywhere, he'll do it every time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's I mean, on a strict level, you didn't need every line there, but boy, it all comes
Uh,
together and it all
yeah,
enhances the drawing.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah, there I would have. I'm sure I did probably the T-Rex first, and
yeah,
then save the Titanic for last. So
yeah.
yeah, um, it's not a smart way to work, but that's just what almost always happens. So
No, it's whatever. I mean, I warm up too. Everybody warms up. Pianists warm up. I mean, it's just
yeah,
you got to get your fingers working in the morning. Do you work a regular schedule? Do you have sort of set hours in your head, or do you just kind of like me? Do you just kind of work when you feeling the pull?
yeah. I've always tried to work a regular schedule like it is a real job. If you're a
Yeah.
freelancer, the easiest thing in the world to do is to not work. You can find a
Oh yeah.
million things to do and not work. So I've always tried to keep track of my hours. I'm not getting paid by the hour. It doesn't mean anything. But in my head, if I look, finish up the week and realize, okay, I put in some good times and I feel better.
Right.
Or if I fall short, then I try harder the next week. So yeah, I don't know any other way it's still imperfect,
Huh.
because I don't have someone, cracking that whip over my shoulder, making me. Even my wife doesn't do that, but
Oh,
yeah,
same here. My office is extraordinarily clean every day. You know,
oh,
my
mine's
my
not.
you know, I it's anything, anything.
Yeah.
I get DC will send you um lettered pages to look at when you're a writer, just to make sure it all jives together and it all works. And then they'll also send you send everybody on the team like a final last look, they say. And
Hmm.
boy, I jump on those immediately because anything's better than working. So they are always
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised to see that I get my notes back within 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
wh- so you must have been thrilled when you got to the Atlanta stuff, right? That must have been the easy stuff.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I didn't have to rule lines and stuff, which is
Right.
my because again I'm old school, so I want to rule with India ink. They've got good markers and pigment liners and things like that now that are okay, but I tried almost every time to put down an India ink line because I'm scanning this stuff and cleaning it up, and every time it looks sharper
Yeah.
with India, real old school India ink. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, the Atlanta stuff is freehand and a lot of brush and all the things that make inking fun. So I love those.
What are your tools? What's your gamut of tools that you use?
Uh, Hunt 102, although more recently I've started using the newer Japanese equivalent of that, which is a Zebra, I believe.
Okay.
Um, and it fits the 102 holder. It's basically like a 102. It's just better. It just holds a finer point longer,
Mhm.
um, and is more consistently. Every Zebra pen I've used has been good. 102s,
Okay.
sometimes you'll get one that doesn't quite work right. Little bit of sable brush, um, little bit of well, hadn't had a rapidograph pen in years, but that Candor scene made me realize I really need a fine
Yeah.
rapidograph again. Um, so that's pretty much it. Just
Okay.
just
I'm going to ask you this. I'm going
cool.
to ask you this as a sidebar at some point later on, because like next week or something, because, and I think I mentioned this to you, Kevin. Simon and Schuster commissioned a book from me on how to do comics, which is like everything from soup to nuts, writing,
Cool.
penciling, inking, lettering, coloring, which meant I had to reteach myself lettering and coloring. And
Yeah.
I'm glad I did, because I think that the more, and I think Kevin, you probably agree with me, like the more different crafts you know in this work, the better your work is just in general.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
more you know
Exactly.
about coloring, the more you know about lettering. So all this to say, I wrote the book something like 9 years ago, and it's still in publishing limbo. And every year or so, I take it back and re-edit it because technology keeps advancing.
Hmm.
So when I get to the tools of inking, I've had to change that section like 3 times. I will call you up later as a sidebar and get your most up-to-date tools that you're using.
It's a
Well,
living,
and
breathing document, Mark. It's
It
until
is.
they
It
publish
really
it,
kind of is. Yeah.
unfortunately.
yeah,
So,
but as I said, my tools haven't changed much in the years. I haven't done digital inking or anything like that. Coloring obviously has changed a lot because of Photoshop, but the actual inking is the way I did it 40 some years ago. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think the first time you and I worked, quote unquote, together was when I was doing this broadsheet fanzine called Comics Week. This is like
Hmm.
87. It must have been like summer of 87. And Bill, have you ever seen this thing?
I have not.
It was
Uh,
it was
I'm
my
I'm gonna look it up. Are they on eBay? Can we find one?
they're probably on eBay. I mean,
Okay.
they are enormous. You could make a tent out of these things. You could sleep under these things. The idea was, at that point, the fanzines were coming out monthly, and this is, for you younger listeners out there, this is long before the internet. And so if you wanted your comic book news a little more rapidly, we thought, well, let's put together a weekly, which sounded like a good idea, except eh, there were just a myriad of problems. It was underfunded by the publisher, as it turns out. It was underfunded by the guy who was publishing it. And more to the point, for whatever reason, I guess to make it stand out, I said, let's do it as a big giant, even bigger than DC's tabloids. Let's do it as a big giant magazine, which retailers traditionally hate. Usually, anything that doesn't fit in a normal comics bag, retailers grind their teeth over. So
Mhm.
we did, like, I think 5 issues altogether. And so at one point I did commission a cover from Kevin, and it was a lovely X-Men cover, really nice. And then I ended up, so the magazine folded. I left. The job of getting some of this artwork back fell to whoever, was cleaning up after us. And so we sent it back to Kevin. Kevin, can you want to take up the story from here?
The cover, yeah, I think it got back to me folded.
Yeah,
It was
folded
Oh
in
a it was
half.
a
no, that's awful.
painting on
I'm sorry.
illustration board, and it was stuck in a jiffy bag, folded in half. So it didn't fare that well. Yeah, that you
Yeah,
did a whole you did a whole interview with me, and it was
yeah.
it was terrific. But yeah, had to do it was a cover painting, and I'm not
Yeah, I
fast. I
felt
had to turn
when
around pretty
when I learned about
quickly.
that
Yeah.
later, I felt so terrible, man.
No, no, I was very flattered, but yeah, it didn't end well.
Do you
I think
still
there were
have
only
that art,
two.
Kevin?
Oh God, no, no, that was back when I sold everything just instantly. Um,
So,
and I don't.
and then
It floats
and
around a
then
bit. It gets resold over and over again, as those things
yeah,
do. But
I'm sure
yeah,
the crease is probably still visible.
not as bad as you would think. Yeah, I was
Oh,
horrified when it came back to me that way, but it doesn't look that bad. So last
and
last I
then
saw
and then after that, I was an editor at DC for a little while, and a couple of things. I mean, actually, you did. Oh, I know, you did a couple of things. You did the Origin of Man Bat with Jan Chernot, right?
it. Yeah,
That
one of
was a
my favorite
beautiful
jobs there. But
job.
and that was
Beautiful.
thank you a few years too late, because that
Please,
was a
no, no,
time
no.
what Jan. I was on the phone with Jan. He was originally from
Mhm.
Wichita.
Yeah,
And we were talking about some other job, and asked him what he was doing next, and he mentioned that Man Bat, and I about dropped the phone. I said, "Oh, do they have an artist? They have an artist?"
yeah,
And I don't know if I called you or he called you or said, but I was begging to draw it, and
yeah.
fortunately, you hadn't assigned an artist yet, and it was early enough, had a fair amount of time to let me do pencils, inks, hand lettering on the board, and color guides.
And coloring, that I remember specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It-
the style I had drawn, it really required coloring to be done a certain way. That, yeah, for many reasons, that's one of my favorite jobs. So
It's a
yeah.
it's a beautiful job. It's never been reprinted. I think it's Secret Origins 39, I think. That's off the top of my head, but it's a pretty good head. Um, so if you're floating around on eBay or something, you want to look for that. It's a beautiful job. And
I've
then
made
after
a
that,
note.
or I'm sorry, I didn't mean
I
to
made a note.
interrupt.
I want to check it
Yeah,
out.
Oh, if you haven't
and
seen it,
then
it's really
yeah,
good.
and then one of the last issues of Action Comics Weekly that was done. At some point, we decided it's DC to do Action Comics as an oversized weekly comic, which was in theory a good idea, but it's the mad scramble to put that thing together every week was insane, and
Right.
not every piece of work in that book was Jeff's kiss, exactly, because again, weekly grind. I think it lasted
Yeah.
42 issues or something like that, but near the end, Brian Augustine and I had been handed the editorial reins on one of the stories, and we thought it might be fun. I think Elliot Magan wrote it, and it was in distinct chapters, each of them featuring one of the characters who had been appearing in the anthology version of Action Comics. So this is one of the last issues, and so our idea was let's take some of the classic artists and team them up with some of the newer inkers. You were one of the newer inkers back then, Kevin,
I was a young
and
Turk.
exactly. And so we gave you Carmen Infantino. I want to say that I could be wrong. I want to say we had a conversation about that, and you chose Carmine. I want to say, but I could be wrong.
Maybe. Yeah, as I referenced the other day, I also remember around that time you asking me about if I'd be interested in inking Irv Novick, and I passed on that, and I will
Right.
regret that till the day I die because I loved his work. Um, but yeah, Carmine's pencils were really more what we would consider layouts, and it made sense. I think he always kind of drew that way, which is
Yeah.
why a Joe Giella Batman story would look so different from a Carmine
A
Flash
Sid Green or
story by
something.
Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah, would look
Yeah.
very, very
Mhm.
different because he left a lot for the inker to finish up, to refine in that stage. But they were strong layouts, but
Mhm.
they weren't terribly finished. It wasn't a modern penciler where you could literally trace the lines and consider it good.
Are there other pencilers that have been more like that have been, and this is not to cast aspersions on any of the artists you work with. They're all great, but everybody has their different methods and everybody has their different
Yeah.
way of putting out pages. Are there any other artists you work with that have been where you felt like you had to get a little more involved like that, where it was a lot more interpretive?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is Gil Kane because I was determined to ink Gil and make it look like Gil and not take over, which
Right.
that was not what the editor Mike Carlin wanted. I showed him a sample page and he said, "No, no, 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 you're making it look like Gil. We don't want it to look like Gil. Gil wanted to ink this, and we wanted I know I can sell X number of books if it's Gil plus somebody else." And
Hmm.
that gave me a whole identity crisis that I was calling up friends. Well, how you can't redraw Gil. That's everybody's anyway.
Right.
And I finally talked to Gil himself, and Gil started talking about working with Wallace Wood and how Wood would keep the structure, but then the lighting and stuff would be more developed.
Mhm.
He'd play around with the large black areas and things like that. So then I finally thought, okay, I can do that and
Yeah.
hopefully make both Gil and Mike Carlin happy. But yeah, it was also sort of a peek into the minds of those old school pencilers like Buscema and Gil, which they weren't doing pencils for another inker to just trace the lines.
Yeah.
They take it so far, not as far as most modern pencilers would today,
Mhm.
and stop at that point. It's like, okay, the rest is up to you. Figure out where to spot those blacks.
Yeah.
Because I've given you the structure. Now the rest is your job.
Well, thanks for being a guest on our show today, Bill. Um,
I know. Hey, I'm just like everybody who's hanging out in the chat right now, just enjoying the conversation. I did see. I don't want to like switch back to the
no, no,
story. I
please.
don't want to forget about a question I saw from. I got to scroll up to find where I highlighted it. There it was from Derek, who is a big fan of Kevin's work, and he was curious about the cameos from the various characters that Superman reaches out for a cure. Were all those in the script, or did Bryan, ad lib some of the, like a scene like this? Did you
Right.
tell him this? Because this is kind of like after he's already gone to 4 or 5 different knowledgeable people and
Right.
places, and
And,
we
and
get
now he's Hail Marrying it.
yeah.
Yeah. Some of those are, I know Guardians was a suggestion. I know that High Father of the New Gods was a suggestion. Beyond that, I never would have done this to a penciler. I, I never, I,
Or
I,
anything.
I think at that, because Brian knows the DC universe too. I mean, he's familiar with this stuff. So, and he's a fan of classic Superman as well. So I believe with this, it was just, here's a few suggestions. Anything else you want to throw in, feel free. And he felt free. So good for him.
Great.
Yeah, how
So
did you feel
Adam
about
Strange
seeing a page like
wasn't.
this, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
strange.
I loved it. Yeah. I think Brian got that page. So as we divided up the artwork, as you know, Bill, Brian was extremely generous with me. But it's a book full of, just as an inker, I think I can say this, full of masterpieces. There's just page after page of brilliant drawings from Brian. But yeah, that should just be a poster right there.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
really
lovely.
gorgeous.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. And like you said, there was a lot of I know there's a couple other DPSs, that are just, this is a spread versus a splash, but just great storytelling, lots of character. I mean, something like this, to ink this,
Oh my
Kevin. I mean,
God.
how much time do you got to put into here? Because there's just so much detail, so many straight lines. I just can't imagine the amount of time. And again, it's 18 by 27. This is not
Right.
like 22 by 17 like a normal DPS would be.
That's a great question. Actually, Kevin, like ballpark, how long did it take you to tackle
Oh,
this?
I'm sure that was 3 days.
Yeah.
And it probably shouldn't have been that long. If I was better at working faster, it wouldn't have taken that long, because there weren't straight lines. Almost all of those Brainiac robots, that's almost all freehand. There might be a
Yeah.
few large or longer lines that I'd use a French curve, but there really isn't much to rule there. They're short. If you look at each line, most of them are short enough that. Plus,
Yeah.
an arm on a robot is still going to be a little curved.
Right.
So yeah, it's probably 95% freehand. Well, maybe even 99%. Just looking over, But as you can see, there's not a quarter inch of breathing space in there.
No.
It's
No.
filled up. So
No.
yeah. But
In fact, a lot of times the ballooning was such that we were like, I don't know where to put a balloon here because I don't want to screw up anything.
Yeah. And you didn't much. You only got 3 or 4 small balloons. So
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of copy trimming, I think, near the end because it was also because Brian's such a good storyteller that a lot of times this was, I don't need this bit of dialogue here because he's conveying it well.
I
I have another
about
question, not to
Uh-huh.
take away from the chat room, but when you get a page like this and you see this for the first time, what is your gut reaction? Is your gut reaction, oh Jesus Christ, or is it, hey, here's a challenge, or is it somewhere in between?
Yeah, and my answer would vary depending on what I'm looking at. Since I'm looking at this, I remember it was like, oh boy, that's going to take a while. I hope
Yeah.
DC doesn't start
Right.
breathing down my neck to speed up because this is going to take a while. But also, it was more. I couldn't wait to start working on that page because I love it. So the Superman figure
Wow.
is so good. I just love that page. I'll confess something. When Brian and I were dividing up the pages, he was very generous with me, dividing up the pages. But in the original page count, this would have gone to him. And I practically got down on my knees and I offered him all kinds of things. How about these two double page spreads and maybe a couple more in exchange for that? Because I plan on keeping that original, the general expression is take it to my grave. Well, I hope that even my kids and grandkids don't sell it. I hope it's hanging over someone's mantle for generations to come. I love it that much. So
that's nice to hear, because I always keep that in the back of my head when I write. I'm trying to tell the best story I can, but at the same time, not make people draw baseball stadiums over and over again, or county fairs or bicycles or whatever. So
Right.
Yeah. No, I do. I really love that.
But there were plenty of, where was the other one? Again, just like that. You're right. I mean, Mark, there's how many words we have on this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. And this was another one of Bryan. Here's the Fatal Five versus the Legion, but don't feel obligated to put the entire Legion in here. And I think he did. So
yeah, that's such a classic Bryan piece where he loves and he's so good at it. The composition, you can fall into a lot of traps there with that many different figures, layers and layers of action. You could accidentally make a tangent or it's so beautifully composed.
Yeah.
It looks like it would have been effortless, but that had to have been a nightmare just to work out the poses and the composition of that thing. It's just beautiful.
So on something like this, I was going to ask you, Mark, like the direction that you give Bryan when you're writing a script. Do you ever talk about page layout, with Bryan or with other artists?
No, I very rarely talk about it with I very rarely reference that in my script. Sometimes if it's very specific, I do, but the last thing I want is for the artist to feel like an art robot. And I've seen, as an editor of, hundreds and hundreds of comics, I've seen so many scripts come across my desk where the dialogue, where the panel descriptions are so, paragraph long, precise, when you 3/4 angle on this from this shot, and it just, I resist that, because I think that I don't want to tie the artist's hands too much.
You did.
More than does it ever happen in editorial though? Like when something comes back and it's already laid out? Sorry to interrupt, Kevin. I'm kind of curious at that level, or just where you have to shift something or change a panel entirely because it doesn't really affect the mood that you were hoping to see.
With layouts, generally, that's the kind of thing I try to catch but I didn't have to see Bryan's I did see Bryan's layouts, but there's nothing to he just did great. With younger artists that I'm working with, especially really fresh guys, I do ask for layouts. Just often it's international artists, and so we're going to make sure that there's no language barrier thing that got screwed up, or a lot of younger artists in particular are not very good about leaving room for captions and balloons that are already in the script. So working with them to do that. But when it comes to a finished piece of art, or a finished penciled page, I will do backflips in dialogue to try to do triage if something doesn't look quite, if there's some disconnect between that and the actual script, just because I'm always mindful of the fact that something that took me a couple of hours to write is something that took somebody a day and a half to draw.
Right.
Kevin, you were going to say, I'm sorry, before we, since it is your interview after all, I'm sorry.
No, you're doing great. But you reminded me of something. Looking at the script as I was inking and comparing the script to Bryan's pencils as I'm reading along, there were many times when you would say to Bryan, okay, this little detail is very important, but these other 3 details are totally up to you. It won't really matter. But as long as this, and I thought that's really helpful to a penciler to know, okay, I got to worry about this. The rest I can have fun with. It could be this or it could be that. And, you clearly were giving him options. I assume that's the way you work generally, is just, focus. Okay, this has to be, it's like a setup for something else, where you can't just substitute something like that, it really has to
Right.
be this. But then
Yeah.
these other things, have fun and use whatever you want.
I do write very purposefully. I do. I mean, all writers theoretically put a lot of thought and effort into their scripts, and I do too. But I tend to write very purposefully in the sense that if I'm only going to ask for something really specific, if there's a specific reason for it, and it may not be
Yeah.
obvious in the moment that you're drawing it, but it may be something that pays off a little bit later in the script or something like that. But
Yeah.
I just always have felt like it's my story only only to such point where we hand it off to the penciler, at which point it becomes our story. And then when the inker gets it, it becomes, our story, the three of us. And as long as we're all pulling in the same direction and basically telling the same story, or an interpretation of it that's even better than the script they got, that's fine. That's why I don't want to be a novelist. I want to be part of a collaborative process.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Bill,
exactly why we love comics and the narrative arts, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
because it's getting to see, all the hands involved in
Yeah.
it, and especially back in the day when there was lettering on the pages too. I mean, you really got a sense of, the amount of teamwork and effort that was going into, creating a comic book. It just it's a little different today, right? When pages are so clean and there's no lettering, but no, that's wonderful to hear, Mark.
Yeah. Kevin, when we were back in the era where we were doing lettering on the boards,
mm-hmm.
were you doing lettering on your work from jump when you were just starting out? I'm probably not a Marvel or whatever, but I mean, if you were doing smaller stuff or indie stuff, I don't remember.
Yeah, I did, because when I was before I got paying work, when I was just a fan artist, I worked at doing lettering because I wanted my samples to look professional. So
Yeah.
I wanted the lettering to look professional. So I practiced and tried to become a better letterer. And then when I actually started drawing comics, most of the stuff I did was full script. Like that Mandat, I know was full script.
Right.
So I would, at the very least, pencil in the lettering with guidelines and everything. So I knew exactly how much space was left for the artwork,
Right.
for the drawings,
Okay.
as opposed to
And
Marvel style, which we've all seen those Marvel books where they're plot first, then pencils, then script, lettering, and then they're inked, and heads get covered up by word balloons, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, what? It doesn't. It worked,
Yeah, but it's not
but
ideal.
it's not.
It baffles me the number of younger pencilers who don't understand that it's a balloon or a caption is a visual element it's an element of drawing in the story. It's no less important than a desk or a telephone or a building or whatever in terms of composition, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty militant about it. I think even something like sound effects should still be drawn. I'm not.
Yeah.
I can accept digital lettering and word balloons, but sound effects rarely work for me when they're done digitally. I will.
Yeah.
I only did a few on this project, a tiny little um, Brainiac robot sound effect or something like that. But they look right. They're integrated into the actual artwork. They're not separated in a caption box or a balloon. So
Right.
sound effects, I feel like, should always be drawn. But it doesn't really work with
Who in your
this
mind
digital
back
world.
in the hand? I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry. It's the delay.
No, you're doing great.
In the hand lettering days, and I think you and I are probably on the same page on this. Who was the very best at sound effects?
Oh, Gaspar.
Yes, Gaspar
Saladino.
Saladino.
Oh,
Yes,
gee, man. Yeah.
by a mile.
I think
Uh-oh.
everyone else,
It's like
there was
I'm back.
many other really good letterers, but I think, Gaspar was the king.
Yeah.
And they're so hand drawn. They're so, they weren't. You can see why the digital doesn't work, because they were uneven and drawn in the third dimension and stuff like that. He just did
Yeah.
so much with them. Yeah.
Yeah. I asked specifically for, I mean, Gaspar was half retired or mostly retired, but when I was doing Flash, I begged for Gaspar, and it took a while to get him on board. But I still remember the moment that the first issue came in lettered that with him. I looked at it like, yeah, okay, this is a real comic book now. This feels like a
Yes.
real comic book to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think it, it well, again, it's less of an issue now with digital lettering because the worst letter in the world can get a nice font and make it look professional. Still, something's lost. I always felt
Yeah.
like comic art is part of what's so inviting about comic art is that sense, that feeling in the back of your head. The guy did this by hand. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
too clean, too pristine, too mechanical, that feeling becomes, oh, some machine just knocked, you did a
Yeah.
couple of commands and the machine just knocked this thing out. It doesn't feel like a, I don't know. Well,
Organic. It doesn't,
a good,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, organic. That's the right word. I was going to make
I'm a
uh,
writer, Kevin. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so anyway, but it's we're old school, and
We are old
the world
school.
has changed, and all we can do is sit on our porches and complain about it. So.
Is there a
So
font for your lettering?
No, Dave Johnson. Every couple of years, Dave Johnson will say, "When are you going to do that? Just let him do. I want you to work with
Comic
Starkings
craft or
or
whatever?
somebody like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to do a font." I said, "No, because then you could put my lettering on your stuff. I worked very hard for a lot of years to
Right.
do what I can. I want
Yeah.
to letter. Oh, since we're on the subject, I got to tell you, one of the most exciting moments as a letterer was doing a hand lettering panel at Heroes a couple of years ago with Rick
Neat.
Parker and John Workman, and oh my, I was in heaven because Rick
Yeah.
Parker told me the secret thing. I'll tell it here so that all the
Please.
potential hand letterers out there can know the secret, right?
Right.
Which is,
All you hand letterers out there, listen
yes,
closely.
there are
yeah.
many, but
Think
Yeah.
of all those 12, 13-year-old kids who are just dreaming of doing hand
I
lettering
know.
in the future.
Working day in and
Yes,
day out at the buggy whip factory, dreaming of comics. Yes.
exactly. But the secret that I wish someone had told me 40 years ago is because we file down speedball pen points to get that thick
Mhm.
and thin. Again, look at gas bars. The horizontal stroke is thick, the vertical stroke is thin, and that's really hard to do with a fairly fine point. They don't just sell pen points that do that. So we file them down. Rick said, take a piece of glass for that last step, polish that point after you've got it almost where you want, polish it with a piece of glass, use it like a whetstone, and suddenly
Ooh.
it's just smooth as silk. I couldn't wait to
Ooh.
get home and try. I've got hundreds of speedball pens
Yeah.
and a bunch that I thought it's almost usable. Maybe if I break it in a little more, it'll work. And one after another, I did that, and they were like Excalibur. They were just magical
Wow.
hand lettering. So I can't wait to do some more hand lettering for what good
Yeah.
it does me now.
Huh.
No one's using hand lettering anymore, but I immediately filled up a whole page with sample lettering, just
I
having
think
fun
that
with it. So
I think that's indicative of why, and again, just prepare to have your ass kissed here, but that's why I believe your work is timeless. And I think that there's not a lot of people who have been in the industry as long as you and I have, you even longer than I have, no offense.
yeah.
Um, and still working. And I think that's part of that is because you are eager to learn new things. You're open and eager to learn new things.
But still really stuck in the past. Like I said, I'm
Yeah.
so I'm holding on desperately to hand lettering. I still insist it's a better way to do it. I understand
Yeah.
why editors and publishers and even writers want digital lettering because you can change a word, a typo at the last second before it goes to press. But man, it just looks better.
Yeah.
Good hand
You
lettering
know,
just looks better.
the other downside to digital lettering is that for the letterer, is that more and more editors just tend to edit on the page at this point.
Yeah,
So so many letterers that I work with, I feel bad because, the editor will find, hey, can you rephrase this? Or, can we change this around, or you should add this? And suddenly, the poor letterer is doing twice the work for the same amount
Yeah.
of money, or sometimes two and a half, because it'll come back and let's make some more changes in the proofreading. And that feels unfortunate. I know it's much easier to edit on the page because, again, as an editor, it's harder to read a script alone and know that this is going to work until you see it paired up with artwork. Then you get a real sense of, is this working or is this not working? But at the same time, it really is unfair to digital letters that we tend to edit then on the page.
Who who does placements now? Do writers or editors or both do balloon placements for the letter, or they just leave it up to the letterer?
As a general rule, the writers don't do them anymore because we just don't get physical pencils back anymore. So much stuff is done with digital ink, and as you know, so many artists are doing their own digital inking on their work.
Yeah.
But it feels to me like the rapidity of the internet means that the pieces seem to be moving back and forth and flying around a lot faster than they used to. So mostly it's assistant editors at this point, and or letterers themselves. I like doing them, but
yeah, and it's important.
Don't.
It's an important part of writing visually, right? It's that
Yes.
balloon over here will read different than the balloon over this other corner. Yeah.
Yeah, placement is a real skill, and some people are good at it, and I've heckled a couple of editors over the years who are terrible at it, but it's very much a skill.
Yeah. I'm not going to name any names, but there was a Garcia Lopez Superman backup story that I inked a few years ago, and I was out for blood because whoever did placements, there's a whole row of Superman robots, which means it's a whole row of Supermen drawn by Garcia Lopez, and 4 or 5 of their faces were covered up by a word balloon that could easily have been moved down here to this empty space. And I thought, no, come on, the poor letterer, they're underpaid. It's, probably had to do it quickly or whatever. And I don't even know if it was the letterer or the editor or the assistant or the writer who did the placements. I'm sure it wasn't the writer, but yeah, I just, I wanted to crucify the guy. It's like,
that's hard, but
you don't cover up.
No,
you don't cover up faces. It should be a rule, period. You certainly, if you're ever going to cover up a face, don't cover up a Superman face drawn by Jose. That's insane. No, no.
The one saving grace here is because we're in the digital lettering era. That original page still exists in toto, rather than the older days when
it's actually sitting over there in a portfolio right now.
Oh, that's nice. That's
unmarred by lettering of any kind. So, yes.
Stupid
yeah,
writers.
that's criminal. I was going to ask you. So when you're working with Bryan, I assume he doesn't make any kind of notation on where he thinks lettering should be within the pages.
Not that I see.
Yeah. Yeah, but that makes sense, right? I mean, he's trusting the process as it goes through for everything to be done right. Just like Garcia Lopez was not anticipating to have 4 Superman heads be covered by a word balloon.
And Bryan, like a lot of really good artists, is mindful as he draws. I think it becomes probably an automatic thing, as we, all of us, whether it's Kevin or me or Bryan or any other inkers, colors, letters, have certain things that I think we've been doing so long as part of our craft that we just completely take for granted. They're invisible to us. And I think that with good artists like Bryan, I would imagine that leaving some open space in every panel for balloons becomes just a natural, invisible, instinctive part of the craft.
That makes sense. Well, Mark, one thing, my takeaway from the conversation so far is I think we need to do a panel where we bring on, like three creators and you
Yeah.
pick brains about the craft of making comics. I mean, it would certainly inform this book that someday we'll see print.
Someday we'll see print. I'm totally with you. Look, I'm a process junkie. I always have been, and I love reading about this stuff. I love, and so if I can have a conversation about it and learn. I mean, Kevin's always been very generous with his information and the way he approaches things. Even though when we sit together at a convention, I mostly just sit there and with my back to him, I don't talk to him. I'm sorry, Kevin. Um, that was not my intent, by the way. I was very conscious of that at the end of the second day. I'm like, we're not having a conversation.
Oh, but we did a bit. You told me what Shatner said or actually did not say to you.
Right.
Say that for another time, maybe. But no, it was pleasant. I get to enjoy your parade of DC shirts. I got to.
There you go.
We had a few. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
a few interactions. I wasn't disappointed, but
I hope you understand that I was not trying on purpose to be rude or
no,
anything. Also, when
no, no,
when
no,
Brandy's
no.
when Brandy's there, it's like as with you, when your spouse is there, it's more about interacting with them
Right,
to
right.
keep them from being bored out of their minds.
Yeah, no, I look at conventions. That's essentially you're working. It feels
Yeah.
like sometimes it feels like a party, but mostly you're just there to work. And
Yeah.
as my wife often reminds me, sitting next to me,
Mhm.
pay attention to these people in front of you who are lining up, and they've been waiting for this, and maybe the line was too long, so they came back and they're here for the third time. All they want is a signature on a book.
Yeah.
It's you're pulled in several directions at once.
Right.
So
And it is
that's just
work
how
at
it goes.
at a
It is.
convention. It is. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't look like work. We're sitting there just signing our names, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's that, and I know you're mindful of this too, that this is their moment. This is the fans, this is their
Yeah.
moment with you. And you
Right.
want to help them make the most out of it. You don't want to just be signing their book while you're talking to somebody else and not paying attention. You want to have, so it just takes it takes energy. Hey, how you doing? You enjoying the show? You having a good time? Great. Who else are you here to
Yeah.
see? Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have to drive
Yeah.
far? Great. Well, enjoy the rest of the show. You have a great time.
We
No.
need
That's me.
more
You
old
just
school
pull the
professionals
ring in
at
the back in my
shows. I
back,
can
and yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's less and less the norm, but it's wonderful hearing you both say that, right? Because without the fans,
Yeah.
you guys don't have jobs, right? I mean,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
what you're there for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love hearing that, right? I mean, a lot of times, things have changed a lot over the years, certainly, but I mean, it's if the fans aren't there, we don't have an industry.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, you gotta, and they're going there because they want to meet the creators. They want to have
Yeah.
that, like you said, even if it's just a 30-second, hello, sign this, and let them tell you how much they appreciate the last work you did or the first one. It's important to them,
It,
and conventions play a really incredibly
yeah.
important role in this industry. I mean, maybe not all of them have, the kind of trade show vibe that some of the bigger shows have, but they're all equally important. I mean, it's just as important as the fanzine that you started, the Comics Weekly way back when. I mean, connecting fans to creators,
Yeah.
introducing them to new creators. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just
No,
love
but
hearing you guys
I'll,
talk.
here I'll help you segue out. So it's yes, it is also the idea that to me, if on a good weekend, 40 or 50 people show up over the course of a long day, they're just I'm probably not going to remember them the next day.
Mhm.
I interact with them, I will listen to them, and I want them to feel connected, but at the same time, that's a lot of people to remember at the end of the day. But
Right.
conversely, like that was a moment for them. That's something that they will remember longer than I will. And so again, I really want to make sure you that they come away with a positive. I know I'm running along, but can I tell my origin story as far as this goes? I think, Kevin, did I tell you the story about my the reason I treat fans so well?
I don't believe
No.
so.
So when I was a fan back in the day, I wasn't much for autographs. I wasn't much. I would go to store signings, but not really to get autographs. But every once in a while, there'd be somebody big rolling through town. And I won't name names on the podcast, although if you catch me anywhere as a human being, I will absolutely tell you the name because the guy's a jerk. But there was a store signing in Dallas. I was living in Dallas at the time. Uh, Writer, artist, and inker were all there for a big project that was launching. And we're all in line, and the penciler is just grumpy. He's in a terrible mood. I don't know what was going on with him, but he was just gruff and kind of, not just gruff to everybody coming up in line. I'm watching this going as I'm moving up in line. And the movie Superman 3 had just come out. And I was still young enough where any Superman movie is a good Superman movie, to some degree. But, he was bitching and grousing about how terrible the movie was. And I get up there and he looks up at me and he says, "What did you think?" And I said, "Well, I mean, you're right. A lot of it doesn't work, but there's one scene that I think kind of works." And he says, "Then you're an idiot."
Oh
And
no!
that was my bat through the the
Wow!
window origin moment. I'm like, I will never, ever I give people reason to walk away from my table, not having a good time, feeling like they were not respected. That's just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's horrible. Yeah, you're never going to look at
Wow.
that creator the same.
No, no, it's hard. I
Yeah.
mean, if you work with as many people as I do, you have to get kind of good at separating the artist from the work, but
Yeah.
you don't have to work at it that hard in comics because, I mean, I think Kevin, you'll bag me up on this too. Most people are nice people.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the talking. I apologize.
No,
No,
this is
that's
very helpful to me. So
Right.
thank you.
You can just lean back. On that
Yes.
note, I do have, we're coming up on like an hour or so coming up on it. I do need to split it. Bill, any other lingering questions? Anything that
no,
popped up in
no,
the,
not right now, but I do really feel like we should talk
yeah,
about doing a show. We can, structure something around bringing on some creators and talking about the comics process, whether it
happy
ends up
to.
being anything good for the book or not. I think it'd be great. And I could actually just drop myself out of the stream entirely and let you run the panel. I
I
think that,
look, anytime you want to set that up, we'll set that up. I'll let you
okay.
pull some people together and let's do this.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I just wanted to, commend, you both since you're on screen. I thought this was a fantastic read, and
Thank you.
I'm a Marvel guy at heart, but I thought the story was wonderful, and I love the fact that, DC allows creators to kind of sell or tell stories that are just, that don't have to fit in continuity and
Right.
can be exactly what you want, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful that that is an opportunity, with DC Black Label or whatever else, formats that they may put them in. But yeah, I enjoyed the read thoroughly. I even passed the books over to my wife to read because she's a big Superman fan and she loved them too.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Good.
All right. Well, I'm going to get on with my Saturday and do what the other things, the other 6,000 things I have to do because it's my day off. My day off, which means I
Right.
have to do all the stupid stuff I would.
All
Every,
right, Mark.
like
Well,
everyone, I have my honeydew jar, right? So do this,
Yes.
do that.
all right,
Thank
Mark.
you
Well,
so
thanks again
much.
for hanging out with us and talking about the book and more just talking about the craft in general. But yeah, I look forward to having another conversation with you in the future.
Anytime. Kevin, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, I'm the one who's grateful. Thank you so much. And again, I'm the last guy I know to become a huge fan of your writing because I've known you for like most of these 40 years.
Right.
But you blew me away with this story.
That's nice.
I didn't see it coming, and I couldn't love it more. So
Thank you.
thank you for that.
That means a lot to me. It really does. I think it's the best thing I've ever written. And I really appreciate your kind words.
No,
All right.
I couldn't love
All
it
On
right.
more.
with your
Thanks, Mark.
Saturdays and talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay.
See ya.
Thanks.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah,
Oh, that was great. I'm so glad you thought
Mark's great.
to invite him. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had him on a few other we Comic Art Live panels. So I've had the chance to talk with him before, but yeah, I mean the story was great, and it's nice to hear that he feels it's some of his best work, if not his best work. I think that like he was saying, the fact that the publishing schedule was so spread out, it people might not feel it has the the impact that it does. But for me, reading it after, at the end, I didn't read the first book and then have to wait a year. I mean, it's so fluid. It's such a wonderful story, and yeah, once it's in a trade and people get to consume it properly, then it's it might be viewed a lot differently. But anyway, that was good. I didn't have to do anything. I could have just dropped myself out entirely during that, Kevin.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad he was able to join us. So we do, we are a little over an hour into this, so we should probably go ahead and
Okay.
show off the artworks that we have available for sale. We do have 32 lots that I've made slides for, and like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I've got everything kind of queued up and ready to post to CAF after the show is over. So anything that we don't sell live, or that people see that doesn't get claimed during the show, head on over to CAF. You can go to my gallery on CAF. We'll have all of the artwork that is still available. Not only Kevin's part of the the book. I have Bryan's stuff here too, but at some point in the future we'll post that too. But yeah, I guess let me give everybody the scoop on how we do claims around here. I've got a couple slides that I updated. Claims happen in the chat as always. The 32 lots that we're going to show today all have their numbers on them, so you just need to type claim and the lot number. Typically, if you say claim and the slide's still on the screen, we'll know which one you're talking about. But preferably put the lot number after the word claim, just helps us out. And obviously, since we have 32 lots, you can claim something at any time. A lot of people like to wait and see which pages are available, because we're really not released information on which pages Kevin has, from his allotment from the book. So a lot of people like to wait till the end, so you can claim anything at any point in time after we've shown it on the screen. If you claim any artwork today, you're going to email sales@comicartfans.com. That does come to me, but also a couple other mailboxes as well, just as backups here. So that's the new mailing address we want you to use. We expect payment within 48 hours of sending out an invoice. If we have to use PayPal, we do charge a service fee for U.S. and international orders. But if you can work with Zelle, Venmo, personal check we'll take in the mail, even if that's needed. And for international buyers, Wise is a great alternative. There's a small fee on the buyer side, but at the end of the day, it's much less than if you were having to use PayPal. So I highly recommend that as an option if you haven't looked into that before and you're international. And as far as shipping goes, everything is a little bit oversized. The DPS spreads and splashes are very oversized. So domestic shipping is $35. Anything international is $70, and everything will be fulfilled by yours truly here at CAF HQ. So we ship everything in Masonite, just the same way Kevin shipped it to me. So it will arrive safe and sound, and while not bulletproof, close to it. Right? Yeah. And Marcus wanted me to show off my shirt. Yes, I did wear a DC shirt. The only DC shirt that I have that was
Nick
a gift
Cardy.
from Mr. Redjack in the chat. It does have Superman on it, so I had to look for it, but I found it and I have it. So there you go, Marcus.
Beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Well, I deliver. No, I'm not going to I can't deliver anything in person. I'm not going to any shows in the near future. So not New York Comic Con or the New Jersey Art Con. That's this weekend. No, that is not going to happen. So there you have that. And all right. Well, we might as well just dive into the pieces that we have available here. Let me switch over a couple tabs. So we could talk a little bit about each of these too, because it does run. We have pages from all three books, and I know that the way you guys split it up was unique, but worked out rather well. That you both got really really great sections of the books, and like you were talking about earlier, Kevin, it was fun knowing that there were certain pages that you both were interested in that you were able to deviate from the split structure that you guys had put in place, especially with that one DPS that we showed. I know that it wasn't in the set that I got, so I assumed it was one that you kept. I love hearing that. I know that looking at that piece, I know you put a lot of work into it. 3 days of your time to pull that one off. I'm glad it's staying with you.
I am
all right. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go right into the first lot. So everything is chronological as well. So this isn't like we're ordering pieces by price or anything like that. I wanted to kind of keep it going with the story, and we have several pages from the beginning of issue 1, and and the pacing on this book was interesting, Kevin, like you said about the second to last page. And I mean, the story kind of ended 8 pages into before the end of issue 3, but he slid that one in there, and I know that why that's a surprise. But throughout the book, like with this page here, there's segments and moments that are going back in time to a different an earlier Lex and Clark relationship, which was fun. And so I love this first page as a way to kind of get you into the story.
Yeah, that big shot of the newsroom. Another great example of Bryan um, giving you a lot of detail. You can see all these individual workstations, a modern newsroom, with monitors instead of typewriters, etc. Um, and that's right after a long shot of Metropolis, um, the Daily Planet building, the harbor, etc. Um,
So
he
Brian drew
doesn't.
that all right. I mean, he wasn't leaving
Yeah,
anything to
everything's there. Yes, absolutely. Everything is there in the pencils. I may have added a leaf or two in the lower left corner, but other than that, everything you see there would have been in the pencils.
That's fun. I can't say that I've seen any pencil only pages that he's worked on, but that's that explains a lot, though, I guess, about his
Yeah,
approach to these things. One
yeah,
thing I did forget to mention to everybody, and I saw where was it? Mr. Redjack reminded me. If you're on YouTube, and most of you are, hit the live button in the lower left-hand corner. That'll bring you up to speed with everybody else who are watching the video. A lot of times your internet can buffer. Mine buffered twice while we were talking earlier. So you could be a few seconds behind everybody else. So this way, at least, if there's a piece of art that you want to claim, you'll see it when everybody else sees it versus seeing it seconds later and wondering how somebody else potentially claimed it and you hadn't even seen it on the screen yet. That's always very frustrating. So I appreciate Mr. Redjack reminding me of that. I need to put that in the slide, then I'll never forget. All right, so let's see. That's lot 1. Then lot 2 is page 2 from issue 1. And again, I know in the last panel it's blank, but that was basically setting the title of the book, The Last Days of Lex
right.
Luthor by Clark Kent. So for those of you who've read it,
Yeah.
yeah. And the coloring is pretty good on this too. I don't always say that, but I know that David Barron was the colorist on these books, and they did a fantastic job.
David really is one of the best colorists in comics, and the fact that we were able to get him, um, I'm so happy because he understands lighting. I've worked with colorists who don't understand double lighting. You'll have a face with think of a classic old school Batman face with the shadow running down the ridge of his nose, and basically that means the two light sources are on opposite sides. And so many colorists will color both sides equally and flatten that out. David never did that. He would always give you two distinct light sources. And as you see on virtually every page, he just understands lighting and storytelling all the way through. I love it.
Yes, you missed an opportunity to write "Bam, Bam, Bam" in that second panel, though, Kevin.
I did. Um, I don't think. Yeah, and those are very nice. Yeah, I think it's. I forget the individual letter, but it's Richard Starking's company, I believe, doing it. And they did very nice work. Um, and it does look organic, as we were talking earlier.
Mm-hmm. It
That's
does.
a good example of good digital sound effects lettering. The second BAM is behind young Clark's arm and sleeve instead of out on
It's
top of
almost
it.
as if you did draw it.
Almost. It's very nice. So
All right, so this is
the Lex extending out of the balloon and
mm,
the long shot at almost at the bottom of the page. That's really nice. Nicely done.
There was a lot of creative lettering going on, especially
Oh, yeah.
when in issue 3 with the Brainiac robots and things that the letterer definitely took some, added a little bit of creative licensing approach to the way they handled the balloons and the fonts. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this one's $400, lot 2. Now let's go ahead and take a look at lot 3, page 3 from that book. This one's $325. This is, and again, these are all on 13.5 by 18 boards. And I believe, the one question I didn't get to ask Mark, I'd written it down and I totally forgot. In issue 1, you do say that the title says Superman Testament. But after that, it's not that. And issue 1, I see that, and I know that issue 1 both. I think issue 1 might be the only issue where you both have signed it as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Right. When I told Bryan originally that I wanted to hang on to some of these originals, he volunteered to sign the penciled pages before they headed across the ocean to me. So that's why issue 1 is and since he had signed them, I went ahead and signed those as well. I believe Testament was the original title. At least most of the script and the file, the pencil pages that I got all said Superman Testament, and then later, I think the title was changed to The Last Days of Lex Luthor, which is I like that because that is what the story is about. Spoiler alert!
I agree.
He does die in this story. So.
You gave it away now. I held
sorry,
back but given the title,
it is in the title. Yeah.
So this is lot 4, and it's $325, and again, just fun storytelling. I love that Clark question mark on the last panel. He's already gone.
Yeah.
They're all watching through the destruction on the monitors, and then boom. Yep, he's out of there.
He's already gone. Yep.
Marcus, yes, we did. It was a spoiler, everybody. But you should have assumed that based on the title of the book.
Yes.
And keeping with.
Oh, you dropped out. I'm not hearing you. Sorry, Bill, I'm still hearing just silence. I'm going to try something. It might be, just in case it's an internet problem here, I'm going to try something. Hold on one second. Oops.
I can hear you, Kevin. You okay?
See?
All right. Not sure if we are. Oh, you don't hear me either. I see Stingray saying that.
Okay, I'm back, and I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay. Well, we are having storms here in Central Florida, Kevin. So I will.
Okay.
I'll say that up front. I hope that I don't get knocked offline. But I did get a text message from Spectrum about a half hour saying I could anticipate an internet outage. So now,
dear.
It very well could happen. And I'll let everybody know if it happens. I'll apologize in advance because it is a bad storm blowing through here. But if something were to happen, what we'll do is we'll end up just dropping the art all on the site, and I'll send out a mailing for everybody. But thank you, Marcus, for reminding us that Storm is the best X-Men leader. Not that kind of storm, though. All right, so I do apologize. But this is lot 5, 450, and it's page 5 from issue 1. And that's Lex power, trying to flatten or sink an island, I believe.
The giant robot, yes, and lots of windows.
That's right, exactly. And this was all drawn, right? He didn't just he put all the windows in there for you.
Absolutely, yes. It's all drawn. It's quite daunting. Yeah, we don't even see Superman until several pages into. There's multiple cityscapes before we finally even catch a glimpse of Superman. Page 7, 8, something like that.
I think the next. Let's see here. Lot 6. Just you get to see the blurs.
A blur, a red and blue blur. Yes. Yeah. In the meantime, more cityscapes.
Yeah. Yeah, Bryan doesn't make it easy on you.
No, no, but he's doing the work, so it's not like he's pushing it off onto someone else. He's penciling everything in there.
That is true. So this is lot 6, priced at $500, page 6 from issue 1. And I know we deviate at some point. Not yet, though. This is page 7 from issue 1, lot number 7, priced at $350. And still, you're just getting hints of Superman here. You get to see him in shadow, right? In
Right.
4th panel there.
Right. And you know he's arrived because everyone's smiling finally in the last panel because
Exactly.
Superman's there to save them.
So when you get the pages from Bryan, you've already had the script from Mark in hand, so you kind of get to look at them both, and then just kind of his script basically gives you kind of an idea of the direction that Bryan went, and then you're off to the races inking.
Right. Yes. That's basically what I do is get out the script with the penciled boards and just sort of read along. And in some places the pagination was a little different in Bryan's pencils from the script.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it reassured me that I knew exactly what was happening in each panel. There weren't a lot of marginal notes explaining things. So I did feel like I needed the script to make sure that I was not misinterpreting things.
Right. I really didn't see anything written by Bryan. I don't think on anything there. So so here, page 8, we finally, or lot 8, we've deviated from the page count now. We are going to page 12 with this one. I think so this one's priced at $1,000. Again, these are oversized pages, 13.5 by 18. And yeah, this is Superman figuring out how to stop the island from sinking.
Yes. Again, more cityscapes. but at least here we have a couple of dynamic shots of Superman going into action. Again, there's that double lighting effect that I was talking about with the black line going down the bridge of his nose,
Mm-hmm.
and the way David interpreted that beautifully, and even clarified what was happening in like that last panel. It might have been a little harder to understand if it was just in black and white. So that's a great example of a colorist adding so much to the storytelling. Plus, his color palettes.
I like the big fist. It's a reminiscent of Kirby, coming at you.
Yeah.
Yep. And I know Mr. Redjack had an accidental claim in there because we've not shown lot 9 yet. But yeah, no, I love this page too, and I thought the coloring turned out really well. Like you were saying, I think that the page is very. There's a lot of detail in this particular page, and when you look at the colored example, it all sort of comes together and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's so nice, and it doesn't always happen. But when I looked at the colors, I liked the pages even better. So many times, you see missed opportunities, you see misinterpreted details. David never did that. He, from my point of view, he got everything right and made us look even better. So,
yeah. And like Rich Danny just said, yeah, on this one you can see a lot of the blue pencils still left on the page. Kevin, thank you for not erasing those.
Right. Well, the blue doesn't come up as easily as graphite does, so it's a little more waxy. So it does have a way of hanging in there a little more than the. Plus, that it's not going to show up, or it's easy to clean up when you scan the page. When it's blue, it doesn't turn into gray dots or specks the way the graphite does.
No, well, I was just about to change the slide, and Max Machado has claimed lot 8. Thank you, Max.
Oh, excellent. Very good.
Make a note of that. And no, this is a fantastic piece. You're gonna be very happy. There's a lot of there's so much great artwork in this thing, but this was one of my favorites. just I think Superman was maybe in one panel before that, and that might have been a page that you kept, but I just thought this was just a really nice, striking piece to come up in here. But yes, so thank you, Max, for that. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide, lot number 9. So there's a lot of moments of backstory going on. This is one of those where Clark and Lex are interacting, and early on, and Clark dumps a bunch of snow on some bullies, very appropriately in this one. It's just fun, and again, back to the storytelling. Look at all it's all the detail in the downtown scene in that first panel, and then I love the almost tipping everything 33 degrees in that second to last panel, just to kind of get get Clark in there better and act kind of nonchalant. It's just fun storytelling, and it goes back to, I just think that what the things that we love about comics, right? I mean, just different vantage points, angles really help a story flow, and that's this page is really just well done from all aspects of that.
And Bryan deserves extra credit for drawing a small Kansas town and making it look very authentic for a guy who, I don't know if he's ever spent any time in a small Kansas town, but I have and do every day. And I don't think I changed a single detail from what he penciled there. I was tempted. There's a little open space there above those buildings for a grain elevator. I was very tempted to squeeze one in, but I thought, no, let's defer to the penciler. It looks fine without it. I put in a grain elevator on my variant cover for issue 1.
That's right.
But yeah, congratulations to Bryan for pulling off the authentic details when it would have been a lot harder for him than it would have been for me.
Well, let's see. I think we have a couple consecutive pages here. So this was page 21 from issue 1. So we have page 22, just kind of continuing their conversation. Lex is definitely too smart for this town, and he's very misunderstood. And again, you have to read the story. It's just well done. Just the relationship between he and Clark, as Lex is trying to prove that there's life beyond Earth, and right beside him is an alien, and and poor Superman can't say a word to him.
I know there are different camps. Some people don't agree with the idea of having young Lex as Clark's friend in Smallville, but I love the way it adds another layer of irony to what eventually will become, they'll become arch enemies. If at one time they were friends, it seems much more emotional to me. Plus, that's if you've read the story, that's kind of at the heart of what's happening here. Is they were both outsiders for different reasons, and they had that in common at this, in their high school years, before all the other changes that were to happen to them. So I love that about Mark's story.
No, I did as well. And this is lot 11. I jumped ahead one, but panel layout on this is fun too. Just the inset space to the top right and bottom left. I mean, that's just wonderful storytelling elements that are so subtle. They're not trying to conform to the shape that everyone expects panel borders to fall into, and I love that this isn't the only page where something like that happens, but it makes you appreciate the overall page all the more. Even though it's the farm scene and the both of them going out to stargaze, at the end, it's just a beautiful, beautiful page.
And again, David Barron getting the double lighting right in that close up of Lex's face. He gets it every time. It's so nice to see. Yeah, so like he understood what those different parts of that tractor were. I don't know if David's ever rebuilt a farm tractor, but I'm glad he understood what all of those details were, and he colored them appropriately. It's nice.
All right, so this is our last page from issue 1. So this is page 23, lot 11, and lot 12 is, let's see, I believe, yeah, right, here we go. Lot 12 is the beginning of issue 2. So this is page 1 from issue 2, back in the newsroom. And yeah, I mean, it's fun, the dilemma, Lex has got some problems, and everybody wishes Superman would just let him croak, and Superman can't do that. That is a dilemma for him, but his moral compass is working against him in terms of favorability that everybody's kind of pointing out here in the newsroom, right, with Jimmy and Lois. So that's how issue 2 gets started. Anthony, I know that actually does not happen in the book. But so again, lot 12 here, 350 on that one. Lot 13, this is page 2. And we get Superman in costume talking a bit with Lex here. Clearly not things aren't going so well for Lex at this point. This one's $600 for lot 13. And and back to that panel structure, Kevin. The last panel being wider than the first 3. It's just again, it's just fun, and I know that's just kind of Bryan's aesthetic, coming into some of this.
Right, in the panel before, where we transition from one scene to the other, with Superman kind of checking out what's going on in Metropolis with his supervision, and then now we're in the Fortress of Solitude with Superman and Lex in that last panel.
That is true. Yeah, he and I can see Anthony claim this one. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, this is where the whole journey starts. Basically, is him bringing Lex to the fortress. So, and then that, like, issue 2 is very much a on the road with Superman and Lex.
Right.
All right. So thank you, Anthony, for that one. You know my email address. So we'll go ahead and take a look at lot 14. This is, again, from issue 2. This one's page 10. This is a little bit more backstory again, again, brilliantly covered again, colored by David. I really like, I don't think we can both say enough about David's approach to coloring this book, but again, that really nice page, great panel layout once again. And this is page 10, priced at $500. And yeah, Anthony loves Kevin's work. We all love Kevin's work.
Oh, thank you.
Are you allowed to talk about what you're working on right now, Kevin?
No, I'm not. And most of it's just a cover here, a cover there, and some odds and ends. But beyond that, no, I really cannot. Sorry.
All right. I had a feeling.
It's nothing like this. So yeah, this is something very.
I'll just different. Even though we switched slides, Robert says he always loved your Superman Aliens run, all-time classic.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
So lot 15 here, and this is page 11 from issue 2, priced at $500. This is Superman not knowing what kryptonite is at this moment.
I don't know that I don't think they've ever done a Superman black and white, because here's an example of why it wouldn't work as well as Batman in black and white does. Because kryptonite doesn't look like kryptonite if you don't have color. It's just a rock.
That is true.
If you don't have color, it's just a rock. It's like, why are they making that big fuss about some dumb rock? It looks like, so is he holding up a potato? Who cares? Yeah, but you put that green glow in there, and suddenly everything's very ominous.
Very, very true. Spinner Record hopes you're doing more Hellboy someday.
Oh,
that would always be fun. So
I do love Hellboy. Yeah.
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 Now, this one.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry, Kevin.
No, I'm debating whether or not I'm making a tiny contribution to an upcoming Hellboy thing, but um, that's the only Hellboy thing I know I'm involved in the near future.
Okay. I look forward to that.
Tiny
So let's see. That was lot 15. We also have then lot 16 here. This is page 12 from the book. Plenty of, yeah, you like you just said, without the green, you don't know what the heck's going on here.
Yeah. It's lovely coloring though. Yeah, the green kryptonite glow dominates, but it's very effective.
Right. Spinner Record says Superman black, white, and green. Yes, they would have to do.
Yeah.
All right. Lot 17 is next. I think again, sequential page here. So this is page 13 from issue 2. Lot 17 priced at $500. And I think that we break sequence from here on out. I'm pretty sure we're jumping to jumping forward a couple pages or ahead. Let me see here. We've got lot 18 is that awesome splash page of Wonder Woman clocking Superman right there, and Lex loving every minute of it, which was a very fun sequence, I have to say.
Yeah, in the bubble. Yeah. Here's a good example. I get the feeling that Bryan isn't big on sound effects, because here's a page that would have let's say if Neil Adams had drawn this, he probably would have roughed in a big sound effect for the punch, a boom or smack or something. Bryan didn't, and really there's no room to put it in here that would, it need to be a big sound effect, and there's not room for anything more than a small one. So I think that's a good call. You don't really have to hear or read the sound of the punch to get the feeling that she's really clobbered him. So
right. Well, like in the page before it, she was really angry. So
yeah,
you go from that to this, and yeah, that there was a lot of force behind this punch, whether you have the sound effect or not. And yeah, just getting the commentary from Lex in the next couple pages as well was just fun, right? I think he was hoping he could stream it live for the world to see Superman getting knocked around like that. But congrats to Chuck Arnold. I left his claim on the screen there for everybody to see. Thank you, Chuck, picking this one up. It's a beauty. It's cover quality piece. And again, these are oversized, everybody. So they're pretty darn spectacular to see in person.
Nice.
Let's see. And Corin Kaiserstone was asking if you were at all inspired by Leyendecker. I think a lot of comic book artists, I think, draw from Leyendecker, whether they know it or not.
Oh, exactly. Those lighting things we were talking about, you see it all over Leyendecker's work. We were fortunate enough, was it last year, 2 years ago, to see the New York exhibit, Leyendecker exhibit. It's just fantastic. Those paintings, which I grew up seeing them reproduced in the Saturday Evening Post and stuff. So these paintings are more than 100 years old, some of them, and they look like you painted them yesterday. They're so beautiful. And yeah, I think every superhero comic artist I know loves Leyendecker's work. It's all there. The way he sculpted with paint, you can translate that into pen and ink very easily. But the way he made such bold choices with lighting and shadows and reducing things down to basic shapes, but still making them look very much alive. Yeah, I love Leyendecker's work. I grew up as a big fan of Norman Rockwell, and I think Rockwell patterned his early work after Leyendecker. He was his hero. And I think both of them have the quality that I see today in someone like Adam Hughes, where they have this surface quality that makes you think, especially with Rockwell, photorealism. It looks so. That's what we would always say when we'd see his Saturday Evening Post covers. It looks like a photograph. And he worked from photos. But with Leyendecker and Rockwell and Adam Hughes, they're cartoonists at heart, which means they know how to exaggerate and tweak things just enough to make it more effective than an actual photograph would have been. It comes to life.
Right.
It comes to life a little more than a photo would be, whether it's making a shoe longer or exaggerating an action or making legs longer or whatever. I think all three of them at heart are cartoonists, which is why their work is so effective.
I completely agree.
Good.
um, yes. So thank you for that question. I appreciate that. And again, congrats to Chuck for picking up lot 18. We can take a look at. We got a couple more from that series with Wonder Woman here. I think lot 19. Yeah, is page 20 from issue 2. This one's priced at $900, and again, just a lot of raw emotion in Diana in these. It was yeah, it was fun. Going through like this issue 2, it was some of the interactions you wish they would have lasted a little longer. And and this one would have been nice, right? But she comes back later, when he has to come back and get Lex and everything. But again, just a gorgeous page, and again, just fun pacing with the panel layout. The second and third panels being small and inset and leaving room for the page to breathe. All of that is just it's just, to me, it's just imaginative, and I'll never understand it, but in the way of just telling a story and allowing the reader just a moment to kind of relax and focus on those. I mean, it's Lex on one side, Superman on the other. It works. It just works so well.
Yeah, and the line about missing an opportunity to stream the video in the second panel. That's, but also kudos to Bryan. Lex's expression's very restrained. He's not. He doesn't turn him into a cartoon character. He looks very. He's underreacting to the moment, and again, beautiful coloring effect with David understanding the two different light sources and getting it right. Not hearing anything. I hope you're still there, but I'm not hearing anything. Well, hmm. Oh, okay. So you can hear me, but I can't hear you. That's not good. Oh,
Hey, I made it back.
oh,
My internet totally dropped. This storm's coming.
oh,
I'm
wow.
sorry, Kevin.
That's okay. I'm glad I waited
I know
because
you did it. You were able to song and dance your way through that, and I apologize. We're
well,
gonna
and I
go
thought,
quicker now because I don't want that to happen again.
okay, okay,
Yeah, it's funny. The sun is shining, but we're getting rain and heavy winds right now, so it's a little weird here at the moment.
okay. Yeah, Jimmy Palmiotti sent a note saying they could still hear me, which I guess I should have continued talking even while you were gone, but I had no idea if there was anyone there. But apparently there is and was. So okay. Um, I'm scrolling through the live chat. Didn't even have this open.
Take over one.
Um,
All right. Well, we'll let's try to race through this, and if it happens again, Kevin,
uh-huh.
we may end up having to just have me just post the rest of the art up on the website, which I'm going to do anyway. But yeah, I don't want us to have a bad. We heard Kevin. I don't think Kevin was drinking a beer yet, James. I'm sure he would wait till the show was over.
Yeah, I'll wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me get back to. I don't even remember. Let's see. We were on. I think we were on lot
Yeah,
19. So we can take a look
19.
at lot 20 now. I'm sure everybody saw lot 19 enough. So lot 20 is here. This is page 21 from issue 2, priced at $900. And again, thank you everybody for your patience. Yeah, but we'll go a little quicker now so that doesn't happen again or delay us. But again, fun page, good pacing, all the stuff I've said about all the other pages. Plus. And Edward Chu has claimed lot number 20.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, Edward.
Thank you, Edward. And just as a reminder, if you can't always put the lot number in the claims, just to be on the safe side, especially given the fact that the way my internet's behaving, I don't want to make any mistakes. But everybody who claims today, remember, you're going to email sales@comicartfans.com after the show. All right. So let's see. We have 12 more lots to look at.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take a look at lot 21. So this is page 22. Again, I think this is the kind of the last part from that segment. Oh no, there's actually another piece after that one that's really nice. But this one has the second panel is just great. It's Superman, changing into Clark Kent there, and just doing it with I don't know how, I think there's like 6 or 7 images of Superman becoming Clark Kent and in that alleyway. Just very nicely done, Kevin.
Well, thanks to Brian. I don't know that I made much of a contribution to that, but it also, we were talking about Carmine Infantino earlier, and it does remind me of Carmine's Silver Age flash effects when he would do that kind of strobe time lapse image. And I always thought that was very effective. And Brian did a beautiful job of showing in one panel, showing all these different split second costume changes for Clark. It's really nice. It's a nice page.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so this next one is kind of the end sequence with Wonder Woman. So let me go ahead and highlight that. And again, thank you to Dan Cerna for picking up lot 21. We both appreciate that. Lot 22, and yeah, this one's priced at $550, but it's fun. I mean, you don't, you have the men walking on the moon, but it's basically Wonder Woman lecturing very succinctly Lex on why Superman, believes in the things that he does and his view of humanity. And I kind of feel like this is like a pivotal moment that leads to the things that ends up like the choices Lex ends up making later was this conversation that she
That's
has with him.
that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're right. Sort of sets up what's to follow.
Well, it makes him think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lex isn't a
Right.
guy that likes to second guess himself, and she kind of makes some sense to I think
Yeah.
to him. Talk gives him a little bit of perspective that he wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
So this is again lot 22 550. Lot 23 is next. this we're jumping all the way into issue 3 now, and this is page 27, so it's halfway through the book. A lot of things have happened leading up to this moment. This is, Lex has he's changed a little bit, and so has Superman. But I really like that. I mean, it's a great page for a lot of different reasons. But that second panel with Superman, that's why I focused in on him in the middle there. I just thought it was a great pose. Not and Vincent Valley agrees with me on that one too. Congrats, Vince. It's a great page. And we won't talk too much about the book, right, Kevin? Because we don't want to spoil it for those people who've not.
And I guess we don't have the final. Yeah, the things that we could spoil by showing the artwork here at the end are not part of this this lot, if I remember right. So
yeah,
I'm not too worried about that. But,
okay. Let's see. Okay, see, Jeffrey hasn't read it yet, so there you go. We know some people in the chat have not read it, so we won't spoil it for you.
Okay.
And we won't, because we don't have any of the really. Yeah. Anyway, we'll keep this thing going though, because it is. We are showing a little bit of the story. So this is lot 24, page 28 from issue 3, and it's priced $650. And again, just fun conversation between the two of them. Superman trying to talk sense into him, and I just that last panel where he's like you would do the right thing kind of approach was fun. Just knowing Luthor has the upper hand to do whatever the hell he wants, and Superman talks sense into him. That's why that Wonder Woman conversation with him, I feel like, kind of bookends making Lex have to second guess what he wants to be in life.
Right. And sorry to sound like a broken record, but thank you, David Barron, for getting that shadow on the right side in that last panel, because you wouldn't believe how many colorists wouldn't understand that, and David did it perfectly.
Right. Yeah. Wesley says the cross hatching was done beautifully. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, Kevin, and this is indicative, I think, of your style that we all love. Is sometimes you look at this and think it could get over rendered, right? I mean, why put all the shadows and the textures in a person's face? But it works. It works so well, and again, you're very unique in the way you approach the human figure and lighting, that a lot of finishers or a lot of pencilers might just why do it, right? But you add an element that we don't get to see a lot. And, a lot of times textures are limited to backgrounds and things. Not with you. And I just wanted you to know that I really appreciate that about your artwork.
Well, thank you. But again, I can't tell you how happy I am to follow up by David, where he understood what I was doing and didn't try to fight it, turning into something different, as many colorists do. He did it. I'd like to think I would have colored that last panel exactly the way he did. So I'm grateful to him. Oh, Jimmy. Yeah, in the old days, I would have been tempted to put Zip in the shadow, just to make sure that side was colored darker than the other side. But you want to give the colorist a fair amount of freedom, right? You want them, you want them to feel like they're being creative and contributing to the overall look of the thing. You hate to limit their choices, but again, that's why I'm so happy that we didn't have to, that David understood and colored it right.
Awesome. Well, we've got Gleb feels you are one of the greatest living American comic artists.
Thank you. You're way too generous.
Let's
the
see.
inker on this job. I'm not doing much drawing. I'm just inking, but thank you.
We have 8 more to go. So let's see here. The next one is let's see, lot 25. And sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. And this one is page 29 from issue 3. Price is $750. As both of them kind of in lockstep now.
Both
But
flying. Yep.
but yeah, you got to read the book, everybody, if you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Zero Kiori claiming that one. So thank you, Zero, for that.
Nice.
Make a note of that on here. That was lot 25. A reminder to everybody, please send an email to sales@comicartfans.com after the show is over. I'll pull that slide up again when we're wrapping things up. But thank you one and all for picking up artworks here. We've got 7 more to look at. Next up is lot 26. So this is a DPS. This one's huge. And if you didn't know already, you know who the overarching villain of this whole story is, and Brainiac he's got some crazy plans for that he's hatched that sets this whole story in motion. But this is such a a great page, and again, it's colored beautifully. I mean, this is such a this is such a big page to work on, and the colors don't like dominate it, even though you know where the spaceship is and everything. It's just a beautiful piece. And again, this is huge. It's I've got the wrong size on there, and I'm sorry, I actually didn't change it. It's 18 inches tall and 27 inches wide. So I did not change the slide on that one, or the dimensions. I apologize.
Yeah.
And I'm going to highlight Matthew Pop picking this one up. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, this is a good one. It's just so impressive. Scale is what is it's just part of all of this. It's a big story anyway, but the fact that Bryan works on oversized paper, well, I know it's a lot more work for you, Kevin. The pieces end up being just shocking when you have them in hand. All right, Matthew, thank you for that. Now, let me move on to lot 27. So 27 is, and this one, we were just talking about, we were just talking about this earlier with Superman changing into Clark Kent. And on Thursday, when I had Chuck Arnold on, we were talking about, drawing multiple characters, the same character doing things. Like, I think in the example we were looking at, it was Spider-Man. But how often have we seen artists treat Daredevil that way? I think we can probably guarantee that we've never seen Lex Luthor drawn that way in what we see in that second panel, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's a remarkable page and just fun, and it was funny. Okay, we've got a claim there from Anthony on this one. At first when I got the art, I hadn't looked at the book in a month, and so I had to go back and read it, because it's like it threw me a little bit when I was looking at it. I'm like, that is Lex all over there. I mean, I couldn't remember how it was drawn.
Yeah.
But yeah, such a wonderful page. Make a note of that there. Thank you, Anthony. Lot 27 for you. That's not Cyclops, although he does have eye lasers. Thank you for pointing that out, Marcus.
It's Professor X with Cyclops.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. Let me see. Next up is lot 28. So again, just I just thought this was a really fun image of Superman. He's fighting the Brainiac's robots here. As far as the just great panel layout, but the panel with Superman is just it's majestic, and you can look at the coloring. I love the way colorists treat blacks, where they change it to a different color, like the background behind there and the wall of the spaceship is, instead of black, it's purple, right?
Yeah.
But you lose that. You don't really know, how was that handled in the inking. And you see here that it was all inked, and usually, and that typically is the case. But that's so it makes me appreciate the colorist's work, but it also shows me that it really was all drawn exactly as it was. The colors were adjusted to make that work. So
David uses his tools and the coloring to add depth there. That we are very limited, because I'm only working in black and white, and it's 100% black or 100% white. So that depth that you see in the coloring is all from David. I can do what I can with line weight, but to see a sensitive colorist like David follow through so beautifully and push the background things further into the background and bring the foreground objects closer to the reader's eye. That's so nice to see. It's again, I couldn't appreciate him more. He does such good work.
Agreed. Well, thank you, Vincent Valley, for picking up this one as well. Lot 28 goes to you, as well as 23 that you claimed earlier. Lot 29 is next, and this one's priced at $700. This is 34 from there. And again, just I mean, it's a smaller panel, but there's certainly a lot of robots there battling Superman in the second panel, and you've got Lex and Brainiac really focused on their fight and all the other panels. But again, just a gorgeous page. And I assume that this is a day plus, right, for your time?
Yes, probably. Yes, I'd say a day and a half or 2 days, because as you said, there's a lot of robots there, and there's a lot of background in that first panel.
So Bryan kind of gets away with putting all that detail in there because he does work larger, right? I assume that maybe that's part of his approach. I don't believe I've really asked him that question before, but it might kind of give him that ability to draw an extra window in a city scene, or throw an extra robot in there.
I don't know, because I assumed he drew larger because the book was going to be printed larger than an average comic. So he wanted, you always want that level of reduction to just sort of clean things up, tighten things up when it's printed. But I don't know if it speeds him up at all.
No, well, I can't, but it just allows him to cram more into it.
Yeah.
He gets what he wants out of the page because of the size. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have 3 more pieces to look at here. So lot 30 is next, and this is another DPS. And let's see.
Okay, I think I lost you again.
On this, and both this DPS and the other one are on a single board, just so everybody knows. It's not 2 boards taped together as traditionally they would be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is fun. You get kind of the last ditch effort out of all characters on this one in the battle. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat a little bit. Okay. All right. Single board DPS. Yes, that is very true, Jeffrey. And does it bother? It doesn't matter to you, Kevin, right? I mean, single board maybe a little bit easier than working on 2.
It's definitely easier because one of my jobs is to scan this stuff. So if you got 2 separate pieces of art and you're trying to match them together, when you scan them, it's so much easier to just have it in one piece. So yeah.
Artist Jeffrey Moy agrees, easier when they're on a single board.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got 2 more lots to show everybody, and this is kind of like the climax of the battle between Lex and Brainiac here. So this one's $650, lot 31, and you get Superman in the last panel there. But just a very fun, well-colored page again. You look at that second to last panel, you don't know how it's drawn because of the way it's colored, but here you can see how you and Bryan approached tackling the art on that. And then what you didn't, right? Look at panels 1 and 2 where you have that molten effect behind them, not drawn at all. I don't know.
That's David. Yeah.
I'm not looking at the art, but I don't know if there was a note in there for the colorist to do anything or not.
But like that earlier double page spread with all the Brainiac robots and stuff, David put in that sun across the entire background that was not in the inks, wasn't in the black and white artwork. So yeah, that's a sign of a very good colorist.
Yeah, definitely. I'm page right now, and there is no note there that tells the colorist what to do. I mean, they're reading the script as well, so they.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Wow.
It's lovely.
All right. Well,
Also,
that's what's that?
oh, just the way he on that last panel, the way the coloring helps your eye go right to Superman, even though he's fairly small in the panel. Your eye, because of the lightness and darkness of the coloring, he focuses our eye right on Superman.
Agreed. Let's see. We got one more lot to look at, and this one's only priced $550. Um, this is right at the end of the fight, right? And again, it's kind of back to what was drawn and not drawn. You can see in the first panel where the space is solid black, but when it was colored, they put all this, they put a star field in there as well. But
Yeah.
both work equally as good, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny that Brian drew like the lens flare for that,
Mhm.
in that first panel. Probably could have left that to the colorist, I guess, if he really wanted to.
Yeah, I did some of those. Obviously, not this page. I did do some lens flares on overlays. Um, but yeah, this one is obviously drawn right on the board, not on an overlay. So it's all together.
Awesome. Now I'm looking at let's see, Jill Loudon as claim lot 22. That was the one with the close up of Wonder Woman's face, and I know that that one was still available. So thank you, Jill, for that. And
Is that
right
the
there.
moon landing page?
22 was the one where I'll actually go back and show it. Let's see, let me hide this. And yeah, I want to make sure of a couple things here, but just to show 22 for Jill. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, right there. So
Okay.
that's the one that Jill picked up. Now back to the chat. Um, let's see, where was it? I thought that when Anthony's not putting claim numbers of his lots on there. He typed the word claim. I assume when he did that, that was on the last slide that we were on, but I guess he would have to clarify that for me because we were on slide 32 when he typed the word claim. He's saying he was on 31. Okay, so if that's the case, Anthony, your claim did come in before Chris Spanabel's, but that's why we always like to use claim numbers, Anthony. You know that better than anyone. But so sorry, Chris, for saying that you did get that one because if Anthony was claiming 31, his claim did come in right ahead of yours. So I have to change that around in my notes. Okay. Apologies to Chris on that one. Hide that one. And let's see. All right. So there we go. We only hide that as well. Okay. Got that. So I only hide that as well. So I can, well, what I'll do, because I'm just afraid the internet's going to drop on me again. I would say anything that has gone unclaimed, everybody knows that I'm going to be posting all the unclaimed artwork. And there's maybe, I don't know, maybe around 20 pieces that I'll be posting to Comic Art Fans in the next couple hours. But Kevin and I sincerely appreciate everybody who struggled and suffered through my bad internet, but also claimed artworks today. We sincerely appreciate that. And as a reminder, please email sales@comicartfans.com. I should have made a slide or something for that I could highlight. And I'm looking through and I don't have one, but I guess I could pull up the slide itself as a reminder. Sales@comicartfans.com. We prefer payment via Zelle and Venmo or personal check, but we'll work with you. But but email me first, and we can straighten all that out over the next couple hours. Don't wait till tomorrow. Please email me today. I think we had a couple new buyers in the chat today, so sincerely, I appreciate you tuning in and picking up art from Kevin on this drop. It's been a pleasure of mine, Kevin, just to see the artwork. I told you I'm so happy that I get to handle some of this stuff and see it before it moves on to collectors because it's great. I mean, there's nothing like getting to look at published original artwork from a book that's as significant and and wonderful as this one.
Oh, I know that feeling. You're reminding me of just the joy of attending OAX and just being surrounded by beautiful original artwork. It's one of my favorite convention experiences just for that that.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And I'm trying to keep up with the chat while I'm switching between
Yeah.
slides. I saw Zero Kiori wants to claim 19. Thank you for that. And I've made a note of that. And I did see an offer. Offers are best sent in an email because we don't really handle offers live on camera when we're doing artist drops. Those are more reserved for dealer shows that we do when they're dealing with their own inventory that they own and they can talk about. So if there's an offer somebody wants to put out, you can email the same email address, sales@comicartfans.com, and that's something that Kevin and I would talk about after the show. So I should put that in my slide as well, shouldn't I, Kevin? Yes.
Exactly.
After doing these for 4 years, I should have a better intro for this stuff. But no, Kevin, as always, it's such a pleasure to get to talk with you and being able to work with you on these art sales. And again, it's I think the last time we did this was about a year ago. So maybe we'll do another one of these, a year from now. But that you're always welcome to come on the channel, or if there's ever anything that we can do for you to promote any project or need or whatever you got going on, Comic Art Fans is here for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. No, it was a lot of fun, and thank you for thinking of including Mark, because that made it so much more fun and easier for me as well. Plus, we got to chat more than we probably did at the convention last weekend, where we were too busy. Here we got.
Well, that's good then. That worked out perfect. No, and I think we found another host for the channel. Because Mark could definitely hold his own with pretty much anybody in the industry. That's for sure.
No, that was great. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in on a Saturday afternoon. We appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. And again, anybody who's claimed, please email me at sales@comicartfans.com. But enjoy the rest of your weekend, and there will be a show on Monday night. Tatiana's got a show where she'll be talking about the role of art reps out there in the in our industry, and I hope everybody tunes in. She's got some cool guests that you'll be interested to see. I have to queue up that show in the YouTube list, so look for that. But there will be a show on Monday night as well. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.